Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We got Inner Compass episode number 6, and we are so excited because we just finished the first five episodes, and reflecting back on them, it's been absolutely amazing. Hopefully, the listeners have really started to gain some value from it. I got my good friend Scott Kidd here today, and look, today's episode 6, is called Made for More. We believe we're going to let this name be whatever it needs to be, but we're looking at Made for More, the battle between your calling and your comfort. So, Scott, let's kick it off, man.
Well, first of all, great to be here with you again. You know, you battle between your calling and everything else. It can be many different things, because I believe that, I really believe this, just in our conversation before this, that that we all are made for more,
Yes.
and we can do so much more. And it's just about, a lot of times, again, reflecting back on our discussion right before this, where we're doing so much towards that thing instead of working back towards that future self, future goal, that we're trying to force it too much. Sometimes we just need to sit back and, something maybe presents itself that is probably something that you weren't really looking for, but it's something that you have to go through to get to that thing that you want, or to that success or that goal. So, it's always a battle between yourself, that maybe sometimes you just need to relax and let things just kind of unfold, and then the path will become really clear.
Well, absolutely, man. And, another thing is I know the same with you. I run across a lot of people, and I just had a podcast with a lady the other day, and she goes, this is really hard for me because I'm actually an introvert. And I said, well, I gotta ask, who told you that?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, nobody told me that. And I said, then I would stop telling yourself that, because you don't seem too introverted right now.
No.
Like, you're on this podcast, you're laughing, you're smiling, like you're doing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met you in a real estate conference before, and I've seen you on webinars, and I've seen you on Facebook. You don't seem too introverted. I think you're telling yourself that. And I think we start tackling our limited beliefs, believing that we actually have this thing going on. And we believe that so much that we believe somebody else has told us that. And sometimes they do, and I tell them to shut up. But, at the end of the day, I think it begins with, who told you that? And if nobody told you that, then quit telling yourself negative things.
Yeah. And it's most of the time, when you get back down to it, and you start asking yourself, who told you that? It ends up being you telling yourself that story. Because I was reading the book by Jay Shetty, one of the crew members here gave it to me, and I've been reading. We kind of did a book exchange. It was, if you're struggling with something, just keep asking yourself why. Why do I think that? Why? Because I went through that with a couple things I was struggling with, and it came back to, I was telling myself that, and it was what we talked about a few weeks ago, was that, that when I got to that certain why, it was more of a fear of success than a fear of failure. But I just kept asking myself why, and sometimes that's a great exercise to get yourself out of that. Who told you that? And most of the time it's you, and just stop telling yourself those stories, because they're not true. That it's neither good nor bad. It just is. There's just things you don't need to. If you start defining it, you start to just kind of extrapolating on that. And heard someone speak recently that said, "Well, do you love horror movies?" And he said, "No, not really." And he said, "Well, why do you keep telling yourself that horrible story?"
Reliving it all the time.
Yeah. You're making it worse. You're just adding on to it. It's no one wants to live in a nightmare. So stop telling yourself making up those stories, because you're making that story in your head. So make yourself a great story.
Yeah. Well, I think, we have to remind ourselves that we're picking up the pen every day. It's kind of like a documentary. So if you were thinking about a film, that was being made about you and you had a camera crew walking around every day filming you, what kind of movie would you want it to be? Would you want it to be a horror story? Would you want it to be a love story? Would you want it to be inspirational? What would you want it to be? And I think that we remember that we are the ones that pick up our pen and write our own story. And we do get stuck in that, because I know for me personally, it's the comfort versus the calling.
Yes.
And I think I become really good at this part of it because I got really comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And why comfort zones can destroy dreams is a reality of real facts, because at the end of the day, there is times that I see people get comfortable and they just stay in that level. They're afraid to step out. And I would encourage them to get outside your comfort zone, because nothing good comes from staying in the comfort zone. Like, growth comes from expansion.
Yeah, and you have to do those challenges, because a lot of times life will be challenging whether you like it or not. So why not grow to where you can accept that challenge and say, okay, I've been through something tougher than this.
Yeah.
And more, things. So, it also comes down to, like, why settle for being, that who you are now, when the person that you could be has done all these other things that are really amazing, like we were discussing before. And I remember it was David Goggins said that, where he got to heaven, and they asked him and said, well, yeah, oh, David Goggins, you're the guy that did this and this, ran all this and everything else. He said, oh, I'm not that guy. I'm overweight and everything. He said, oh, that's who you were supposed to be.
Mm.
And I was like, could I, that I ask myself this question sometimes is, if I don't do this, can I live with myself that I didn't just go for it, good, bad, or indifferent? And that sometimes I have to ask that hard question, and then, like, why am I not doing this? Why? Okay, why am I settling? Why am I settling for it's almost there? No, because I know it'll bug me. Like, it'll be something that, and I don't like to live with regrets, because regrets are things that are like that big giant suitcase that you were talking about the other day. And that's a big, a big suitcase, and that's hard to get rid of that one.
Yeah, you got to let go to level up, right? I mean, that's what it really takes, because if you continue to just carry around that baggage, it'll become so heavy you can't detach from the anchor, and you're just stuck, and you run circles around it, and it's just it's terrible for people to get in that space. And I know for me, to get to the future version of me, because I've also, similar story, like Ed Milet talks about, meeting that person you were supposed to be when you get to heaven, and you hope you can recognize that person. And I also feel like, I think Jim Rohn had said,
yes,
when you're laying in your hospital bed and all your dreams and visions come to visit you, they were only given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were given to you, they were probably meant to come true. But you were the person that didn't execute on them. And it's terrible, because I think about how many people's lives could you have helped if you would have completed those life visions. Like, they were given to you for a reason. So why don't you strive to complete them? And if that means creating a different version of you, maybe that's the version you were meant to be in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's very true. Getting back to that whole thing of, like, the fear of success, a lot of times it's that future person that's peeking its head out, that's saying, this is who you are here. And a lot of times you get afraid of that, and you settle back to that same point, whereas, because for the most part, you probably won't recognize that person that's that future you. And that can be a scary thought. But when you think about it and you think back on all the things that you've done, I'm a totally different person than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, yesterday. Our body's constantly changing. So why not change yourself from within while all these things are going on, and be that person? Just walk yourself back from that future you, and it's really not that far.
No,
It
no,
could
it's
just be
not.
one decision. It could be one phone call. one podcast with Eddie Austin.
Yeah. Or just listen to the both of us, man. That's all it takes. The inner compass here to really ignite the
Yeah.
fire. We hope that's what this does
Yeah.
for everybody. And
Yeah.
the thing is I think, and if you think about the superhero metaphor of things, and even the superhero faces doubts and challenges.
Yes.
And overcoming them doesn't start with confidence, because I think
No.
confidence comes with a few reps. I think what it takes
Yeah.
is courage. It takes a lot of courage to step out into the unknown.
Yes.
But I think if the why is big enough, you feel courageous enough, because if you think about, man, if I do this, these 10 people's lives could change
Yeah.
forever. And for me, just hearing that, I don't know what we're doing yet, but just for me, from hearing that, I'm like, let's go do it. Like, if we can change 10 people's lives, like, I spoke to a crowd of no one, hoping one person would hear 5 minutes of it,
Yeah.
because somebody's life might change.
Most definitely, because there was, and I'm not sure who I listened to recently, a little while ago, where they did say that, like, well, how come this didn't work out, or how come you didn't complete that? And he went into a big, long kind of wasn't like an excuse, but he kind of went into a process of all these things. And he said, well, no, that's the wrong answer. Your why wasn't big enough, because your why wasn't big enough to overcome all of that, and if it's big enough, none of that's going to matter. Nothing will stop you. Nothing will get in your way. Things will get in your way, but you'll go over it, around it, through it, under it. You'll do what it takes to get there. So it's, why is a big question that you need to answer that question first, and then just keep asking that question. Like, why do I think this? Why do I want this? Why does this need to happen? And it's a very powerful question.
2000. I'm just going to go ahead and tell the universe now. So, because it's going to come true. So the first part of that is first believing it's going to be possible, and then attaching to that, because the why is so big that I'm going to tell the universe right now, by this time next year, I will have a majority of my family, like my parents and my wife's parents, on the payroll to where they never have to work a day in their life. But it's
Nice.
because they're at that age that I would like them to see them enjoy life. Like, I watch them work so hard every single day for pennies.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take them along on some of the rides, some of the journeys that I want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not possible when they're focused on money.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to start saying no to a lot more things, because this morning I was thinking about different business deals I'm involved in. And I'm like, Eddie, that won't make you enough money to hit this target.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to say no to this and only yes to these things that's going to provide enough income to make sure that you're going to provide the paychecks for at least 4 people and
Yeah.
completely retire them.
Well, that's definitely happening, because the why is very big, and that's a great why. And the no is a great accompaniment for that why, because if you keep saying yes to stuff, you're saying no to all those things that you should be doing. And it's probably only one, maybe two things that you're supposed to be doing. More than likely just the one, that if you drill down on that one, that you're going to be unstoppable. And that 1 year from today might happen in 6 months.
I think it will, because here's the difference. Here's the thing that I'm relating to right now. I have such discomfort watching people struggle that I love and care about, that I am okay. It's not uncomfortable for me to make some hard business deals work. That's going to take me a lot of effort, but they'll pay off massively, because the level of discomfort watching them go through some pain and suffering, I can endure pretty easily, because I'm like, look, it's easier for me to do this hard thing than to watch them do something that I can't fix.
Yeah, that is so true, to like watch somebody else struggle and knowing that you can do something about it that will overcome that. A very hard thing in life that we've all gone through is watching someone suffer and you not being able to do something about it. And that is probably one of the most difficult things that you can go to, especially a very close loved one. And when you see close loved ones struggling and you can do something about it, it really, like, it ignites a fire, and the why is commonplace and it's easy to say no to a lot of
Well, I
other
think
things.
for me, I decided this is no longer a negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not negotiating this anymore. This is just going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get serious. What does it look like? Let's start building the roadmap. And, I think sometimes thinking about the future you, sometimes you have to reverse engineer the journey.
Yes.
And reverse engineering the journey is, okay, if I'm going to do this in a year's time, then this is the income that has to happen. This is the extra income that it's going to take. So at that point, we can start reverse engineering that, what it's going to look like, and make the action steps, and being able to say, no, that doesn't speak to what I'm supposed to be doing here. Yes, that might, but I got to ask some questions first. No, this is absolutely going to provide the income, and we can start really formulating a business plan and make it all happen. And I think through that journey, through those things, we end up meeting the person that God meant us to be, and we recognize who they are.
Definitely, because when you're working your way back from it, you're working your way back from that known future you. Whereas
Yes.
if you're working from this place where you think you're starting here, you start to put all these other things in front of yourself, and you end up going in a completely different direction, which won't get you there. But if you
No,
work your way back, it's there.
I think most people settle
Mm-hmm.
because how do you recognize when you're doing the same thing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you recognize, if you're measuring nothing, how are you recognizing that you are settling for less when you are made for more?
Yeah.
And for me, I looked out and I'm watching, and I'm wanting to do some trips and do some different things. And when I see these people working so hard, I realized, looking within, Eddie, you're settling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're settling for less and you're accepting it because you know that you're made for more. You've
Mm-hmm.
got the experience. You've got everything that it takes, man. There's just
Mm-hmm.
something that hasn't ignited or clicked in you. And the click is how much longer are you going to watch these people being this? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not on their deathbed or nothing like that, but they don't deserve to work as hard as they are at their age for as big a heart as they have.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, okay, it's done now. This time next year
Yeah.
it's going to happen. I think you're right. It's going to happen sooner than that.
Well, yeah, because once you have worked your way back from it, it kind of just breaks it into those small pieces that, in 1 year's time, it needs to be X amount of income. But, at that point, what you're doing now is like, what is this person going to be doing? Well, he's only going to accept things that are in alignment with this. So it needs to be just an arbitrary number. It needs to be in alignment with that $1 million a month or $100,000 a month to be there. Because if it's not, then not doing it, and that makes it a lot easier because it gives you those filters or those criteria to work within that only that person there has already done.
2000%, man. Throughout your life, can you go back and kind of think about some times that you realize you were made for more, and kind of the battle between calling versus your comfort?
Yeah, I can. There was times that, especially in my yachting career, where things were okay, and I just kind of let them be okay. And I said, well, I'm here spending more time with my family, which was very important to me. But I knew that, I was built for more. So I took on all these other types of things. I tried doing, managing a bunch of boats at the same time. And I did that. And I didn't really have the why wasn't really in alignment with that. It was why I wanted to be able to do, still be there for my family and still be on the yachts and everything. But it ended up being just, well, for lack of a better word, kind of a shit show because just I took on too many things, too many boats, and I was all over the place. And it was just me, and it wasn't, at that point I didn't know that, I should have probably hired somebody and did all these things. I didn't really think it through. I was just kind of going through the motions. And even though I was making more and doing all these things, I was really just settling because I was just filling the gap. I wasn't really getting myself to where I needed to be or doing who Scott needs to be.
Right.
You know.
Right. Of course. Man, thanks for sharing, because that really resonates with me, because there was a time that, I thought I was Superman and I could do all these other things. And my wife and I owned 8 separate companies.
Wow.
And they didn't really complement each other. So it means that we were doing 8 separate companies 8 different ways. It's not like we worked a little on this one and it complemented the other one. Like it was very difficult because we were chasing a dollar sign rather than a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that purpose essentially became very washed out because we attached to the money it was making, but the time was out the window, like completely out the window.
Yeah. That same example that I had, I, it just kind of filled the void, but nothing complemented each other because each yacht was kind of like a different company, different guy, and all of them wanted the same, all of my time. Probably like those businesses that you had, each one of them had a high demand, and there was no real crossover. Like you didn't have like a plumbing and electrical, and like a contracting business where you could put them all into building, Eddie Austin's real estate stuff. It was just probably multiple different types of things, and it didn't really, because my place in that time was, well, I want to spend more time with the family, but it ended up being detrimental because I was just so busy all the time, and I really wasn't doing what I said I was supposed to be doing, and so it ended up being just kind of even a bigger void, which caused kind of rifts here and there with everything with personal relationships, but they're saying you can juggle a lot of different things, but like say for instance you have all these different balls, and I heard this analogy I thought was great, that if you have all these balls but your family is like a glass ball, you can drop all these other balls and they'll bounce back, but you drop the glass ball, it's going to probably shatter, and to put that back together might not be possible. So that I had a big fear about that I thought that, well, I need to step away from this, because it's not really, it's kind of hurting me more than hindering me. The money's one thing, but I can go back to just one job and maybe start some kind of other side hustle or something, or real estate or something that's going to be more of a time creator for me, not a time taker.
Of course, man. Of course. That's so powerful. Man, I got to say, if you were to coach somebody right now, like imagine we're coaching somebody, and say they are in that position right now that they're running all these different companies, or they're managing all these different business ventures, boats, yachts, whatever, and they're juggling all these balls, and that glass one is the one that keeps going up in the air that you're gambling with.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice to that person, to get them to this place? Just maybe stop for a minute, maybe just catch them all, or maybe drop them all, but hold that glass ball.
Yeah.
And then say, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I would say, take them, put all the balls down for a minute, and like you said, hold the glass one. Maybe take a hard look at which one of those balls need to go away, and double down on the glass ball. Go back and see, what does your family want from you? Because during that time, my kids were young at that point. Someone said to me, look, you might be doing all these things and everything. He was an older gentleman. He said, but the only person that's going to know that you worked late or weren't there is your kids. Yeah, and that crushed me. That's when I just said, nah, I'm done. That's it.
Man,
I'm
that
going.
I might need a moment.
Yeah.
That brings up some old wounds for me because
Yeah. I've been
you know,
there.
there was a
It's
point in my
tough.
life. I'll just share the story. It's definitely a part of my book that I'm writing. Is there was a point in my life I'd walk in the house and you could cut the air with a knife. Just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of tension.
Oof.
And I didn't pick up on this right away, and I don't know how long it went on. Hopefully, not too long. But I'm still married to the same woman that when this went
Mm-hmm.
on, and I still have one of the kids in my household out of the two. I would walk in, and the kids would come out and say hi, and my wife would go immediately over and start warming up my dinner plate. And it would be, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I had left the house at 4 or 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And I hadn't been home all day. And I'd come in and take my shoes off, and the kids would come out and say, "Hi, Dad," and "Hi, Eddie." And they go back in the rooms, and my wife would warm up my plate, and I'd sit down on the couch and kind of melt a little bit. And wife would bring me my dinner, and she said, sorry, I had to warm it up. And she put on my favorite TV show, and it's like a stage was being set.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually, I think it was just at a low moment. I said, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
I said, what's going on? It's like every day I come home and like you set the stage, like you turn on my favorite TV show, and then like you make sure that the animals aren't going to bark, and
Yeah.
it's like the whole, and the kids go in the room, they don't come out until later. I don't know if you're sending them a text to say it's safe. Like I was never violent by any means,
Yeah.
but she said, "Honey, we realize the stress you're going through because we can all
Mm-hmm.
feel it,
Yeah.
and we're cheering for you because we know one day it's all going to be worth it, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
make it, and we believe in
Mm.
you. And if the only
Wow.
way we know how to support you is to just come home and give you the best environment possible, that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're trying to do." And I was like,
That's a big
you
one.
guys, you guys shouldn't have to stay in your room
No.
for the fear of upsetting me because I had a rough day.
Yeah.
Because I'd come home and like I'd never had time to overflow from
Yeah.
the business
Yeah.
stress. So when I'd come home, sometimes my stress would pour in, I guess pour out, not pour,
Yeah.
just pour out of me subconsciously.
Yeah.
And man, I cannot tell you how painful that was when I
Yeah.
realized that when I did make it to this fictitious mountain, when I turned around and looked, and I was almost there when I turned around and looked, the burning path of destruction
Mm-hmm.
that I created
Yeah.
couldn't be fixed. My kids had grown up. I watched them grow up in pictures. I
Oof.
miss ball games. You can't
Yeah.
fix that.
No, you can't. I mean,
And I
yeah.
think I did at some point. My wife and children would probably disagree, but I did drop that glass ball.
Mm.
And, I was able to put the pieces back together and make it maybe a crystal ball because there
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
blue marks.
Or that Japanese
Yeah,
thing where they I don't know what they call it, but it's
yeah.
pretty cool.
But, that was really, really hard to realize that. And I wish I would have realized it so much sooner. So if you're in that position right now, you've heard Scott's story, you just heard my story. But definitely the most painful thing I've had happen to me. I do want you to believe you're made for more. Anybody
Mm-hmm.
listening, you are made for more, but I would say you're made for more, but be strategic.
Yeah.
Be very, very strategic because don't risk things you can't afford to lose. Like if you lose the best wife of your
Yeah.
life,
And your
it's not
kids.
worth it.
No.
You know, figure out how to make it work. If you lose one of your children that ends up deciding not living in your home, that probably wasn't meant to be. Maybe it was, but
Yeah.
I would encourage you to just, if you're going to go for it, and I think you should go for it because going for it's the only way that you will get
Yeah.
your time freedom. I'd be warning you to be very strategic about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you're definitely right. And thanks for sharing that story. That's
Yeah.
really good. That resonates with me a lot just as a dad and everything else. Cause I've been there like, when I heard the older gentleman say that to me, I kind of had to take a step back with a lot of things that I was doing and just kind of say, well, what am I supposed to do here? And what it was kind of happenstance at that time to kind of say, well, okay, instead of scheduling work first, schedule family time first, and everything else build around that. That's something that it took me a long time to figure out how to do, but it was actually a lot more simple. Like if it's a game and stuff like that, and now, especially working on the yachts, like I've been missed a lot of birthdays, Christmas, holidays, and stuff like that. I've made a lot of other people some pretty nice Christmases and stuff, but we always, a lot of times, I was lucky enough. I worked for a lot of people that were very family oriented, so I got to share a lot of those holidays, and Thanksgiving has grown to be like a big thing in our family because that's just something that when we all get together, and we're thankful just to being with each other. So I would say, schedule your family first, or schedule what's important to you first. If it's your
Yes.
wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, your son, your dad, so anyone, if that person is really that important to you, schedule that person first. If not, you're doing them an injustice, mostly you're going to drop that glass ball. You're going to do that for sure. And I'm not perfect. There's been times where I did things that I thought, maybe that was maybe too distant, just from, like you said, walking in the door with all that stuff hanging over. And kids know, the pets in the house know, wife knows. When you get out of the car, the neighbors know.
Yep. Especially if you throw your half bottle of washer fluid across the yard.
Yeah, and the big pile that's there. Here he comes. He's here again. He's here today. This thing has been gone. Yeah. It's been a week. 7 bottles.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man, it's good to have a good laugh. Hopefully everybody else got a good laugh too.
Yeah, and I think, laugh cures a lot of pain, and laughter comes from a lot of pain. And a lot of times you have to look back at yourself and really laugh and go, why did I? Hindsight is, 2020, 2010 or whatever. You can see through all the things that you were blind to when you were looking at it. And I know I'm guilty of this. A lot of times I'm great at giving great advice, but when I look at my own life, sometimes I'm like, why? I just told that person to do that, and I didn't do that at all.
Yeah. That's the painful hard truth.
Because you give blinders to your own life, but you're all seeing to other people's.
Well, it's like, we started a new coaching company to coach people in real estate. And somebody asked me, Eddie, how's your coaching community? How's your group community? How's it growing? How's your coaching community? Is that growing? I think from what I've heard, you got a really good system from the testimonies and everything. You're doing an amazing job, but how's the growth? And I said, well, it's kind of stagnant. And he goes, and he must have knew, what I would say. He goes, so if you were going to coach somebody else on that stagnant growth, what would you tell them? And I said, well, a lot of times when I coach people on stagnant businesses, the first question I ask is, what all have you tried? Mm-hmm. And the common answer usually is, I've tried everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you've called everybody in your cell phone? No. You've posted on Facebook 4 or 5 times a day? No. So you've emailed every single person on their email list and they're all not interested? We didn't do that. So you really haven't done everything, have you? Mm-hmm. And I was repeating and he stopped and he goes, so what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, I'm going to call everybody on my cell phone.
Yeah. Actually, that's the thing. I got a couple hours right now.
Yeah, that's the thing is oftentimes we are better at giving advice than we are of using our own advice. Mm-hmm. That's really comes down to it.
That's one really good thing about a mirror. Tells no lies. Tells no lies.
If you're willing to face it, it'll tell you. Just look at it.
When you're doing the right thing by yourself and the right people around you. Unless you're just unless there's something completely broken in you, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that the way I've measured things that I've done in my life is I I don't remember the guy that said it, is if I look in the mirror too many days and I'm dissatisfied with what I see,
Gotta do something else.
I'm going to do something else.
Yeah. Gotta do
And
something else.
I've realized that after about 2 weeks of being dissatisfied with what I see in the mirror, the long face or whatever that is, or the refusal to shave, which this one crept up on me. No mental problems over here. But yeah, after so many days, you're like, okay, something's got to change.
Yeah, most definitely. And that, it just shows like most of our conversations that everything's got to come from within.
It
It
does.
doesn't come from anybody else. You can, tell somebody as many times as you want, but if they haven't gotten to that point, to that why, to that, to said no to enough things to realize that their why is right there inside of them, then it just won't happen. And there's just so many other reasons to be better and to get better and to be there to become that person that does a lot more.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, man. Well, I think we're about the end of this episode, my friend.
Yes,
And
sir.
man, it's been such time well spent together. I hope the audience agrees. We'd love to hear your
So
feedback.
too. Definitely.
We gotta think about episode 7 here coming up. And at the end of the day, I'm just so full of gratitude to be able to do this. And just knowing that these episodes might be out for a year. None of them have been released. We're releasing them slowly as we're coming up on that. We're trying to figure out how to strategically release all these. And it's just going to be so amazing to see the feedback, because I know whether people comment or they don't, it probably helps somebody. And that's okay with me. I don't care if anybody comments, but I would love it if somebody would like and subscribe. But at the same time, I know that I've had an amazing time hanging out with you on the camera and just sharing our stories together. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun, and I always get something out, and I always think about things, like even when we're not on, like during the week or what have you. Like I'm like, okay, now that makes sense, and then it means a lot to me, and it feels great, and I get a lot of great energy, and I'm hoping this resonates out to everyone else. And we definitely want to know your feedback. You can like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully share with other people. And it's not so important that the numbers or anything to us. It's more important that if we get to that one person that needs it, then it's a job well spent and a job well done.
Absolutely.
For myself and Eddie
Absolutely.
Austin. That's all that really matters, because there's a lot of times in my life that I need to hear stuff like this, and I needed to talk to somebody about stuff, but I felt that I couldn't. And especially as men, like a lot of times we don't talk through a lot of things. We're supposed to be able to handle it all on our. That's all a bunch of bull. That's not true. We need each other. Women are a lot better at it than we are. Men, we're supposed to be able to take on the world by ourselves, but no man that has ever built anything, or woman has done it by themselves.
They have
They
not,
have a
man.
huge
They
amount
have
of
not.
people around them.
Yeah, build it as a team. Build it together. For sure.
Most definitely.
Well, Scott, where can people find you, buddy?
Investwithscottkid.com. It's got my all my social media links there, and my podcast, the Yacht Captain Investor podcast, and soon to be the Inner Compass, where everyone can be helped to find their true north.
That's it, man. That's it. Well, Eddie Austin VEX here. You can find me at eddieaustinvex.com or on Eddie Austin VEX on all social media. This has been absolutely a blessing to do this. This is episode number 6. We'll be coming at you very soon with episode number 7, so stay tuned. You all have a wonderful day and be extraordinary.